Hello and welcome to the Gone Traveling Podcast, the BKT EuroCup Road to Greatness. We have reached the playoffs. Uh, this being myself and Sergio Llebres in Valencia, who actually had a test, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Sergio, how you doing?
Hi, David. Finally, regular season is over, and well, this is the first great competition in Europe or international competition that ends its regular season, and we have a bracket now, and it's quite interesting.
Yeah, we have a bracket. So Wolves, Besiktas, and Buducnost made it in Group A, and Group B we have Cluj and Reyer, and left outside the playoffs are Ulm. A little bit disappointing on, on my end,
Yeah,
but that's beside the point. And Borg, the runners up from last year. First, just big picture, first thoughts on that.
yeah. As you said, I was expecting Ulm to be there and also up there because in the first half of the season, we had Ulm, I don't know, fighting for the second place or third place always. And I remember that October that they were on the road all October. They had like 6, 7 games between any competition and also the NBA game that they suffered a lot playing on the road. And I think about those things that make me,
Yeah, sure.
yeah,
Hey, that was like, I think it was 25,000 kilometers or something like that.
yeah,
25,000, something like that kilometers, definitely more than 15,000 kilometers and
yeah.
five games. There's two
Maybe
losses. That was a
maybe
Besiktas loss.
exactly. Maybe in a better condition in that October, we had Ulm with a couple of victories more, and yeah, that's I remember a lot that because we had a very good Ulm in the beginning of the season with the young players being younger and without showing anything yet, and now that we know that what type of players are 18 games later, it's a pity that we cannot get to see them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they
For
finished nine
me,
and nine,
exactly,
and they were 9-4. Any five
exactly.
game losing streak, you're not gonna,
Yeah,
that's gonna hurt you.
and then you have Wolves that they started very bad. I think they had some games losing in the beginning, and they had a 5 winning streak, and they were up there. And I had them like I had for me they were the team that maybe could drop to the seventh instead of Ulm in these 3, 4 last rounds, but they props to them because they now they are fourth, and I wasn't expecting that, and yeah, the rest of the teams maybe if we reminisce to the first round, maybe for me the greatest surprise is Cedevita because last season it was only the team that only won one game, and they are a completely different team and they have a different dynamic now with Mitrovic, with the arrival of Tetumulero, the GM, no, so they build a very good team around very good names as Devin Robinson, Brinton Lamar. That
Well, let's
maybe,
go talk about them. You wanted to
yeah,
talk about that
it's
game. They ended up losing their final game in Hamburg, 80-62.
Mhm.
Uh, keep going then.
I I I meant that Cedevita had a very rough season last season, and they got very good names with to get alongside Jaka Plasic, DJ Stewart, and players like that. And well, um, maybe. this was a very disappointing round for them or their fans because Cedevita lost against Hamburg in a in the best victory of Hamburg in the season. It is for me it's kind of funny because I didn't expect that. If Cedevita won, they would have maintain the third place. They remember they were fighting these last rounds for the second place and to get to the quarterfinals directly. And yeah, the for me this victory is amazing for for Hamburg that they didn't end up with a very bad record. If you see it, a 6-12, remembering the beginning of the season, it's something that maybe I wasn't expecting. I maybe I was expecting some Aris kind of thing for them, but yeah, they've been growing, and they have
One of
a
the things that impressed me about Hamburg this year was they came back in a lot of those games. I ended up actually
Mhm.
watching a lot of Hamburg, covering them for the league, and they really no lead was they were never out of the game. It seemed they always had that belief that they're gonna make it back into the game, and you saying that 6-12, that that's really it's really a surprise for me, even that they were able to get that just because of the sheer numbers. But the fact that they never gave up in any of those games, that doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah, and also they got better and better on defense. I think they have a couple of players that are differential there in and yeah, limiting Cedevita to 62 points, knowing that they have very good players on the offensive end is very good for them. And yeah, they didn't get Hamburg Cedevita to get its rhythm, and yeah, season's over for them, but with a good taste at least.
Yeah, I mean, Kuat is really one of the best bigs.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be. Yeah, I
he's
guess
going
I'd be
to
shocked
have
maybe if he plays next year EuroLeague, but if he
he's going
plays
to have
EuroLeague 2 years,
some calls.
not at all surprised.
And also the Spanish league. This is the kind of player that ends up
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
Murcia
yeah,
or a
yeah,
Andorra.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
very interesting.
So, maybe a second year Euro Cup or an upper level BCL team.
Hmm.
I don't think EuroLeague just yet, maybe in 2 years, but
Yeah,
yeah.
well, you never know because Gilson Mango now is on Panathinaikos. So it's depending on the necessities of its team. So
Yeah. Game I want to talk about was the Ulm and
mhm,
Hapoel Tel Aviv. This was a game that, Tel Aviv wanted, obviously, because that would have secured them and ended up securing them second place in Group A.
mhm.
But, Ulm needed it in order to stay alive, in order to make the playoffs. And this was a real back and forth game. And you saw the stars, you saw the experience at the end really make the difference. That was I did the piece I covered the game for EuroCup, and you look at the last 8 minutes, it was a 27-10 run. The Ulm was up by 10 points, and they gave up a 27-10 run. Saying was unfortunately injured. He couldn't play that fourth quarter. But you saw the trio of Motley, Madar, and Foster score 23 of the last 27 points. All of those guys with EuroLeague experience. And then we talk about all season how young, and obviously the EuroLeague, veteran coach, two-time EuroLeague champion, Natudis on the sidelines. And, we talked about how young that Ulm team, not even just the two high level youngsters, but even the other guys, they don't have a lot of, EuroLeague, Euro Cup experience, and that showed down the stretch. They got baskets. They didn't, they knew that they were going to need a few stops here and there. This we've been talking about Tel Aviv kind of all year, figuring out, how they're going to, who's going to step up. I think coach has now kind of figured out, who are his main guys and really just at a perfect time.
Yeah, and they did this win. They won against Ulm without Patrick Beverly. This was one of the things that you have recently mentioned that we didn't even know what to expect about this team individually or as a group. And Patrick Beverly is suspended by the team itself because he had a bad interaction with Itudis. The point guard uh, laughed at the comments of the coach because the coach didn't play him in the second half of his last game, and he's been suspended and indefinitely. And let's see for the playoffs, but he's an important player, and to happen these kind of things for me, like in teams like Valencia, it's impossible these things to happen. It's impossible, and having a coach of the caliber of Itudis, we know him, and to happen these things with this type of coach just shows the little respect that he has for this ecosystem and this thing. So it's shocking for me. And just because they have all the talent and all the physique, they can get this type of wins against youngsters. So I'm intrigued to see Tel Aviv in the playoffs. And also intrigued. I don't know what's going to happen, but maybe in the semifinals against Valencia, I think that's going to be obviously the great test for them.
Yeah. We will
Yeah,
actually talk about the playoffs. Then there's a break in between, and I think we're going to talk about the playoffs
of
next
course.
week. Give our brackets. I think that's a good full podcast worth to break down the brackets. Who we think are
Hmm.
going to win those games, and who's going to take the title. Let's move on to
Yeah,
your best performance, and that is in the RS Cluj game. Cluj winning 89-74, and you have the man Deshaun Stevens.
Deshaun Stephens. Yeah. Um, this was a game that was so important for Cluj because they needed the win to get some playoff hopes, and they got the win in a very difficult court like the Thessalonica one, and they got the fifth place. This they were depending also in Bourges. They lost. We'll talk about later. The Bourges lost in Valencia, and they had their obligations done. And Deshaun Stephens for me was the guy in this game. He didn't really shine offensively. He got 12 points, but he made it in it. I want to talk about his impact because he was for 10 minutes and he didn't miss any shot. He got 5 rebounds, 5 good rebounds. He had very good defense. He also dished 3 assists. He was adding things to the game, and he ended up with a 28 plus minus. That's a stat that you gotta see with some perspective, but in 18 minutes, a 28 plus minus, comparing to the others of his team, and also a 27 of PIR is incredible. He got his best game of the season here, and yeah, I was quite surprised of the Sean Stephens here. His numbers were not typical, and in a very important win for them. So it's been he's a vet, and he's been all over the G League, Italy, Israel, the AV League, and yeah, mm, experience and consistency. And this was the game to show experience and consistency. And for me, he's been the guy of the round, because guys, that we have to pick anyone that hasn't come up yet. So for me, this was the guy in a very, very, very important win for Cluj that got them the playoff berth in a go home or nothing for
Winner
Cluj.
go home. Winner go home.
Win or
Yep.
go
Yep.
home, sorry. So yeah,
Yep.
and Cluj in the they were 3-5 as a visitors, and this wasn't a very good situation for them. So 6-4 in the last 10, and props to them. And now they are facing Wolves in the eighth
Yeah.
finals.
That's going to be a fun game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Deshaun Stevens, you mentioned consistency. He had two double doubles in the year,
Hmm.
but he had a couple other near double doubles with nine rebounds. It's a guy that's always been there.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I like about this Cluj team is that they do have guys that can come off the bench and provide them offensive spark and defensive. He's a guy that can change the game. Also athleticism with dunks and whatnot. So yep, good one.
And and
Good one.
and also, sorry, David, to mention, because I think it's fair to mention it, that Xavier Simpson was 3 rebounds away from a triple double again. It's incredible. That's it.
Yeah, Xavier, I think is up there as far as MVP. I think we can kind of talk about that. Maybe we can talk about that too next week.
Yeah.
Maybe our thoughts about MVP. Who we see as the front runners. Yep. So let's move on to my guy, my top performance, and that's going to be the old man, Stefan Jovic over at Valencia. You know, he's a guy that okay, so he scored 10 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals in a 198. I think you say thriller. I mean, I'll come back to that in a second. But so this was the seventh. So he had 8 assists, and this was the sixth game this season with 7 assists. But the guy doesn't care as far as scoring goes. He did have 14 points against Hamburg in round two, but the 10 points that he scored in this game totaled what he had in the last 4 games. So,
Yeah.
he just does, okay, if the team needs me to score a couple baskets, okay, I'll score a couple baskets, and that's one of the great things, he's seen and done so much and uh you know and to have a guy like him I was thinking, right? So Borg is playing for their life. I mean, this is do or die.
And you could feel
Um,
that.
and Valencia really had nothing to play for. I mean, they could have lost. I think the difference was 122
Yeah.
points or something like that. That basically they could have lost by 60 points, and Bachasir who ended up losing, but actually could have won by 60 points, and Valencia won by 60 points, and Valencia still would have been the top seed overall. So they had nothing to play for. Borg is playing out of their mind, giving everything they have. And yeah, they drop another 100 and so I'm thinking, all of this craziness and everything else, is it all just going to be for naught, and we're just going to see Valencia blow through the playoffs too? But let's wait there. So anyhow, Jovic, yeah, I mean, you got to love the guy. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
the thing that I value or really appreciate the most is that he'll have 8 assists and like 1 point because he missed one of his 2 free throws, but no baskets. So but you were there, so what do you think?
Yeah, I was literally 2 meters away from the Valencia's. The word, the the thing where they sit
The
down,
bench.
man, the bench.
Bench.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I was literally two
It's
meters
early.
away
It's
from the
early.
bench.
Time of recording is early. You don't want to know.
Okay. I was 2 meters away from the bench and I get to see the interactions. He always is speaking in a very good way to the youngs, to his teammates, and you don't realize how what's his impact because he's playing as nothing as nothing happens. He's only playing in his rhythm, and then you check the box score and you say 4 minutes and he got 5 assists. How I didn't see the assists. You know, it's
Yeah.
not it's nothing not teachable. You know, and talking about Valencia in general, this was an important game for them in not in EuroCup terms but in team terms because um, they lost in the last league game and in a very bad way. They were losing by 27. They got to get back, but that was very bad for them, and they are now having Barca in this round of the ACB, and then the next week is the cup, the Spanish Cup. So this was a very important game for them in order to get a very good feeling because in Valencia it has been a lot of talking. There has been a lot of talking about this, and the dynamic of the team, as you see the 198 score for Valencia at this point doesn't mean nothing, the 100 points, and it does mean the way they play. This been a very important game for them. And also, just to say that Pedro Martinez, the coach, told that the De La Rea shoulder injury seems quite of important. So he's worried, and Martinez doesn't say things without knowing. So very bad for the youngster that he had a important time now with the Spanish Cup that it's very special for Spanish players, and also the for the draft that it's literally 5 months away.
Let's move on. Your surprise is George Conditt, the fourth, playing with Gran
Oh,
Canaria in
yeah,
their yeah,
and
incredible victory. I know that sounds weird, but the incredible game that was the game against Trefsupput.
yeah, Andrew Albisi was the one that killed the game with the free throws, but Gran Canaria had a rough time to get the win in Poland. And George Conditt was there in the final time. He put the basket to the shot to be two with 2 points more in against Trefl Sopot 70-72 with 3 minutes left. And George Condit, it's a guy that I got to see in the Olympic tournament Olympic qualification tournament, and he surprised me because of his physicality, and maybe he didn't have the great numbers with Gran Canaria, but he got to be the best player in this game. He had 25 PIR and lead the game with 3 blocks. He's a force under the rim. He finished with 12 points and 6 rebounds. Very good performance for him. And this was his best game in EuroLeague terms, and in the last game. So good for him, and also Gran Canaria is now waiting for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, Condit is a guy that you said you saw him at the qualifying tournament. I saw him at the World Cup the year before, and
Yeah,
it's a guy that I didn't really know very well before that, but
exactly.
an integral part of the Puerto Rican national team. Played actually in the EuroCup back in the 22-23 season, but with Patras, and then
Hmm.
was over in the G League last year, trying to get back, trying to get into the NBA. This year, you see that his numbers have kind of gone up actually last 4 weeks,
Hmm.
and Gran Canaria has been kind of struggling at that spot in the bigs because Sherna and Toby have both, especially Sherna, has been dealing with some injury. And so he's definitely been able to help make up for that loss a little bit. Of course, Sherna did play last two games, but definitely being able to give them a force that they can rely on. He's a different weapon physically and everything else than Sherna is. And Gran Canaria is a team that we've the whole season been kind of thinking that that they have a chance of going pretty far, pretty deep in it. I mean, it's a good core of this group won the whole thing, back in 23. So yeah, I'm really happy that as you mentioned before, we try to talk about new players each time, and happy that we're finally able to talk about Conditt because he's really had
Yeah.
a solid season. I have watched quite a few games from Gran Canaria, so and have seen that he's been doing a pretty good job back in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to my guy. Let's and that is Matas Jogela with Wolves. Career night in a absolutely massively important game for Wolves. They beat Buducnost 91-82. He had 20 points, 6 to 7 threes, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Last three games, 15 points on 75% three-point shooting, 5 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. This is his debut season in the Euro Cup. He played last season in Spain with Bregan Lugo. Actually played in the BCL.
Exactly.
Noticed that he was the Lithuanian League most improved player in 2023. Played with his native Neptūnas. He's from Klaipėda, and it's a guy that there's a couple of those Lithuanians that came back to the homeland to play for Wolves, and Blažević is another guy, and you see him starting to blossom. He's a guy that played national team in the youth level and stuff like that, and now really able to give the senior side. I think that experience over in Spain was super valuable for him, just at a different level, and now able to help Wolves.
Yeah. Jogela is a guy that I've been interested in all the season because his experience in the Spanish league, as you said, and he's one of the guys that made the team to get better. Uh, 20 points this game, and but in the last three games he had double digits in a very important term of the season. So good for him. And he had also practically his best game in the last round, as almost every player we talked about. Yeah.
Okay, well, we are just about out of time. We want to try to keep this always nice and tight.
Yeah.
We will there's a break, but we will not be taking a break. We will actually have a podcast each week. Next week we will break down the bracket. So if you're waiting for us to talk about, we're waiting to hear from us about who we think is going to win, blah blah blah. That'll come next week. We are going to break down the bracket and break down matchups, etc.
Yeah.
Put on our coaching hats. I think Sergio will probably beat me on that one, but yeah, Sergio. Then why don't you let everybody know where they can find you on the social media, etc.
Yeah, I'm Llebres 11, Llebres 11.
And I am at Hein News, Heinnews, Hein News, Heinnews. And both of us are on Blue Sky and
Yeah.
X Twitter. All right. We've made it through the regular season. We have a little bit of a FIBA break, but we will be talking about the Euro Cup the next couple of weeks as well. Sergio, thanks for sticking it out
Yeah,
with me during the regular season.
it's
And
been a pleasure.
we made it through. We made it through.
Yeah, 21 episodes, 18 rounds.
Yeah. All
Easy to
right.
say. Easy to say.
Yep. All right. With that, we will let you go, and we will talk to you next week. This has been the Gone Traveling Podcast.